Let's start talking about, I want to ask you guys a question about just name of some of your top teams. I know, don't name just one, but what were some of your top teams during, or most favorite seasons, top teams, most kind of special seasons that you can think back on?
Well, I can refer back to my days at Armstrong where, like I keep referring to the animals in the zoo because they were there and they were a pleasure to work with. And I always had size. You know, you can't teach size. And that was so helpful and can cover up for a lot of weaknesses in your ball club. But looking back on that experience, was very enjoyable. You know, we had a winning percentage that was very favorable. And I remember the day that my good friend George Scarborough, bless his heart, and the athletic director at that time came down to my Fayette outside station and said, well, just want to tell you you're doing a good job and things are going well. Have you ever thought of being an athletic director? Now that really, got me thinking because, I had some good, and there were teams coming. My assistant at that time was Larry Weeum, and he took the job and I think twice he went to the state.
That's right.
And had some good talent there. So I refer back to those days, good parent support. Kids played in the off season, and I still hear from them once in a while. And it seems like if you guys, when you win, I think you get more calls and letters, and if you lose, all of a sudden they forget you. So I enjoyed those days.
Well, our best team obviously was at '83. It's the only year that I was able to take a team to the state tournament. And I'd say the next one would have to be 1979. We were 14-2 in the conference, won the conference by 2 games. Park was, we were 14-2. They had 4 losses, and they were second place. But our game at Edina, we won by 1. Our game at Park, we lost by 1. So we had these 2 one-point games. And that was a great team. We had Val Rosaic and Greg Olson, who later was catcher for the Braves and so on. And I think I made a big blunder there. At that time, we were playing out at the Met Center, our section, and it was a semifinals. Finals were either Thursday, Friday, or Friday, Saturday. And so we had beaten Richfield that year twice by close to 30 points. And Park was in the other division, and we had these 2 one-pointers. And so when we practiced the day before, we had to think a little bit about Park also. And we did, and Richfield knocked us off. And that night, nothing we could do could pull them out of it. It was just, I still remember Westland was playing for them, and he was hitting everything he threw up, and everything we were doing was going wrong. And I wish, in retrospect, that I had never even discussed Park in that previous practice because, take them one at a time, and I didn't do that. But that was a good team. It really was.
I think you start thinking about teams, the next year team is going to be the best. I mean, you look forward to working with those kids. Most of you have seen them for 2-3 years. And I got to look back at a team like I had with Lingenfelder and 2 with Kevin, 86, 87. And these kids, you see them in the hall, they're all together. And after they leave school, they're together. So there's just a togetherness to them. And you just figure they got to be doing something pretty well the way they perform on the court. And I don't think you see that much anymore. You make kids go out the door and they go the other way, and too many different things in their mind to do.
Yeah, when I think back to
good teams. I came there in Wayzata in '70, and they hadn't done well. We were the smallest school, I think, in the Lake Conference, Mound and Wayzata. So, that was we were up against it a little bit, but eventually we got better and got more numbers in our school and more competition and whatnot. But it was, I don't know if I enjoyed the good teams anymore, and I didn't enjoy the bad games or bad teams. But in the early 80s, we won the conference. Wayzata hadn't won it for so many years. We had a couple of twins, Trammell twins. I think that was 81. And we ended up in the finals of the region and played Jefferson. Or was it the semis? Could have been the semis. We didn't score a point the first quarter against Jack, his team.
Was that at Williams Arena?
No, I was at Augsburg.
Oh,
It's at Augsburg. And, but it was a good year, but nobody wants to end it like that. But then the 80s were good. We won the conference several times. Got beat by you guys again. Got beat by Armstrong in the finals and stuff. So we had good teams, and they weren't any better kids, though, than some of the other ones. In terms of how you feel about them or how you coach them. You just take them as they come and see if you can get the most out of them. Keep playing, get them playing hard, playing together. And so they kind of meshed together there in the mid-'80s for me. Although I can think of some teams I didn't like. Just like teaching. Some classes are good. Boy, I can hardly wait to get to this class, and other ones, oh no, they got these guys again. So, there's a little both, but I think the first year I was coaching in Bertha, we were 12-8, I believe. Henning was really good then. That was our sub-district competitor. So we got dumped by them twice. We had to beat them to go on to the regular district or whatever it was called. Then the second year we were really we had pretty much the same team back. That was 12-8, and now these guys are 18-1. Hemming beat us again during the year. And remember Ted Peterson when he used to write for the
Yes.
okay. So he always would feature a team, a high school team. He was their high school sport guy, and we had a bunch of characters that I taught with in Bertha. And so Ted Peterson called me up in the middle of the week. We were 12-0 at this time, or 13-0, and we'd beaten Henning the first game of the regular season. And so he's talking to me, and I think it's some of my teacher friends that are playing a joke on me, because we did a lot of that. When you're young, you have to make your fun, and when you live in Bertha Hewitt, you really do. But, you'd be teaching, I'll regress for a minute here. We would be teaching a class, and all of a sudden the door would open and kids would come marching in and singing happy birthday to me. It wasn't my birthday. This was just one of the things that we did to each other. So I'm teaching and I'm coaching. This team is doing well, and so Ted Peterson, he would call selected teams and get some info and stuff, and so he's talking to me, and I'm thinking, these guys aren't going to make a fool out of me. So they'd ask me questions like, what makes these guys good? And I said, coaching, and what's their background? I said, well, they never played basketball much till I got here, and they were good football players and baseball players. So anyway, that was the gist of my conference call with him. And then I found out the next day in the paper It was really Ted Peterson. And I had known it by then because the football coach, I went after him and I said, when the phone conversation was done, I says, well, you didn't get me, did you? He said, what are you talking about? I said, well, you called and I know you played your silly games. He said, I never called you.
I have to add something to that because the exact same thing happened to me. Dick Hartman was mathematics head of department, and I had a call over the intercom and said, Mr. Hartman wants you on the phone. And so I went down expecting to talk to Dick, and it was Sid. So, yeah.
All right, here's a good question. You need a basket. You have all the players that you coached. I don't have to have one name, but what would be a few of the players to get you a final basket? You can name one, you can name 2, 3, 4. Of all the players you coached, who would you want to have the ball in their hands? Make that shot.
I'll answer that. Well, first of all, Rob Wassenaar, definitely, for all the things he did. But another one is Greg Olson. And I said that in '78, we won probably 9 or 10 games by 1, 2, or 3 points. It was always something that he did in the last few minutes that pulled that game out. And just a person that was better when the pressure was on. And like I said, a lot of kids like that probably, but those two would stand out in my mind as someone you'd like to have the ball in their hand when it comes right down to the last minute.
I can bring one up. My first year at Armstrong, was new environment, new players, new gym, new everything. And I inherited the schedule from the previous year. And the schedule included a game with Eau Claire, Wisconsin, which was my hometown, where I grew up and played. And looking back on that particular game, I wasn't real happy about it. Going in there, I think I got this right. In 20 years, they'd lost 13 games on that court. And it was good tradition, good basketball. And you remember John Nicholas, the coach at Eau Claire?
Coach, yeah.
A little nervous guy, but so I got to go over there. It's on the schedule. So we go over, and it was quite an environment, quite an atmosphere. The Wisconsin kids they'd play the beer barrel polka while you're warming up. And then all the kids would go out on the court and do the polka. So, the kids are trying to get out of the way of these kids dancing. And I remember they had Uncle Sam, a guy on stilts walking around. He was like 10 feet high with this Eau Claire on it. And it was just crazy. And what I'm getting to is when you asked me asked that question, I thought of this one kid I had. It was Johnny Calder. We called him JC. And he wasn't afraid of anything. He just, he ate that up, that he could go in there and perform and kind of show off, He was cocky enough to pull it off. So he gets 26, and we beat Eau Claire by like 6 or 8 points. And to this day, JC is one of my favorite kids. And as much as he was kind of a flake, now I got into another area. There's a game we're playing at Armstrong. JC has a foul called on him, and he kicks the ball, and it goes into the stands, and they tee him up. Well, there'd be some kids that I'd be pretty ticked off about doing that. With JC, I knew that, that's JC. And that official that called the tee was Jerry Seaman.
Oh,
So we get to probably at Augsburg, don't know who we're playing, tournament game. Who's the official? Jerry Seaman. And I can close my eyes and see it plain as day. John gets a foul. He's reaching, or not a real, a pretty good foul, I guess. And Seaman puts his hand up, points to JC, and then walks toward him. And then, calls verbally the call. In other words, as much as I love Jerry Seaman, as much as I think he's a great official, I think he screwed up John Calder that night, because Seaman was saying, "You're not going to screw with me," because he knew of his reputation when he kicked that ball into the stands. So John Calder that night did not have a very good game, and I blame Jerry Seaman for it.
Craig?
What was the question?
You need a hoop. You need a basket.
Oh, I got to go with Charlie Place, the kid from Superior that dribbled by me and made the 40-foot shot at the buzzer. Charlie Place. Not a starter. He was just a gutsy kid, that if the situation were different, he'd do it again. I mean,
Yeah.
he believed in himself. He really did.
Fortunately, in my career, I think we always try to identify one or two every year. And every night before a ball game, we always had people like Danny Grant, if you remember him. We would set him up for a half-court shot or better, and he would coach and anybody if he make it. And then today you look for one shot, they double team the guy you're going to get, so you got to have a second person or a third person. But I look back, I pick out Lingenfeller for one, the big guy, close to the basket. Kevin is another one, always had a knack for getting the shot up. And some people shy away from that. Some people like it.
Hoffarber, remember those shots he made?
Oh, yeah.
Falling on or shooting from his back, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was on his butt. That was
Yeah.
in the state championship game against Eastview, wasn't it? Yep. What was that, 2006, 5?
He's on his back and he throws it up there.
Oh, I got one. Brent Haskins, Clem's boy.
He could shoot. He could really, he had a good shot. I remember him.
Yeah. He was way overweight. Seriously, 50, 100 pounds. I don't know. He was way overweight. Didn't play 10th grade, 11th grade. I don't even think he came out as a 10th grader. He was that heavy, And then Clem came up to me in the off season, and he just wondered if I could talk to Brent about getting serious about basketball. I said, well, obviously the first thing you got to do is lose weight, and he said, yeah, I know, I've talked to him, and I don't think it's personal, but what I'm saying here. But anyway, that was kind of the stage for the kid. He did lose some weight as a senior, not a starter or anything, because he couldn't really guard anybody, because he was too slow, too heavy. And but we were playing Hopkins, and he was out there because somebody got hurt. And so we were playing at Hopkins, 2 seconds to go, we had the ball out of bounds about midcourt. We set him to screen, and this good guard was going to shoot, and the ball went in. They switched, and Brent just rolled to the ball. They threw it to him, and he made it from midcourt. And, everybody was just crazy. This noise comes bounding down the bleachers. It was Clem. Clem, he didn't get to see probably 3 games all year, and that was the game. And he was so excited. He picked Brent up, and I mean, it was just the greatest. And it banked in too, by the way, the shot. But, yeah.